One wrong journal choice doesn't just lead to rejection, it can quietly cost you a year of your academic career, a delayed graduation, a postponed promotion, a missed grant cycle. And the worst part is this: most researchers don't realize they made this mistake until months have already been lost. Not because the paper was weak, not because the research isn't good enough, but because the journal was never the right match from the start. This is something many researchers only learn the hard way. I learned it very early in my career, and today I want to explain why journal choice matters more than people think. And if you want to find out why generally papers can be rejected, watch this video I've linked. Let me start with an important clarification. In academic publishing, there are no bad journals and no bad papers. You can always find a journal that matches your paper. In academia, there are only mismatches. A mismatch between the manuscript, the journal scope, and what editors and reviewers are actually looking for. When that mismatch exists, even a strong paper can get trapped in a long, unproductive review process, and I've been there numerous times myself. During my studies 10 years ago, I submitted an experimental paper as a first author to a journal that seemed like a reasonable choice. On paper, it looked fine. The journal was related to my field. The topic broadly fit the scope. And at that stage, in my final years of study, that paper felt very important to me. Even though the publication at the time was not required for my graduation, mentally it mattered a lot. I wanted it done, and I had this obsession that I want to get it published. I really wanted it to be accepted, so I submitted. However, the review process took a very, very long time. A month passed. Sometimes it happens. I kept checking my email, feeling increasingly anxious. You know the feeling. When you're early in your career, one paper can feel like everything. Eventually, reviewers' comments arrived. There were 2 review comments. One was relatively positive. The other raised serious concerns about the framing, parts of the analysis, and whether the conclusions were fully supported by my arguments. Well, at that point, I immediately went ahead and started implementing the suggestions without really critically thinking through them. I put a lot of work into it to get it done in a short time. After I got the results, I rewrote some parts according to the reviewers' comments, and I carefully addressed every single comment that this reviewer raised. This took months. I resubmitted eventually, and after all that effort, unfortunately, in a few weeks, the decision came back as a full rejection. And no minor revisions, no major revisions, just a rejection right away. The hardest part was not the rejection itself, it was realizing how much time had been spent on implementing these suggestions. Also months waiting for reviewers' comments, weeks and hard work revising and running these additional experiments, and of course emotional investment into a journal that eventually I found out was never a right place to submit for my paper. In total, around half a year disappeared, not because the paper was bad, but because the journal choice was really wrong at the time. This is how a single decision can quietly delay your entire academic timeline. So that's an example from my experience where I spent a lot of time on something that could have been avoided if I spent more time on journal selection. At this point, you may ask whether submitting the same paper to multiple journals is an option, and by that we can avoid this kind of situations that I just described. But ethically, it is not. Simultaneous submissions are unethical. They waste reviewers' time, and they can seriously damage your professional reputation as well. Editors do talk, and journals do communicate. Once you submit, you are committed to waiting, which makes the initial journal choice even more critical. In that situation that I described, there was a silver lining though. Because I spent so much time revising the manuscript, I realized that one of the additional experiments I had added during the revision process was actually unnecessary. Removing it made the paper clearer and more focused. So when I submitted to the revised manuscript to a very different journal, and which had a higher impact factor in fact than the previous, it was truly aligned with the paper's contribution, and the process moved much faster. The paper was accepted without any delays with minor revisions. What changed wasn't the quality of the work, really. What changed was the type of the journal that I submitted to. So this is the key lesson. Journal choice is not an administrative step. It should be a very carefully weighed decision on your part, because in the long run, it affects how long the review process takes, how your work is evaluated, and how your academic career unfolds eventually. And after that, a journal that is almost aligned can be more dangerous than one that is clearly wrong. Because if it's clearly wrong, it can get rejected right away, while it's sort of close can delay to the long peer review process and eventually result in the rejection, like in that example that I just talked about. So it can create false hopes, long delays, and wasted effort. If you're early in your independent career, time matters more than you think. One delayed paper can affect promotion timelines, your graduation, grant applications, your confidence, most of all, because in the beginning, many of us do not have much confidence in what we're doing when we're starting off. Learning to think carefully about journal selection early can save you months of unnecessary frustration. If you're unsure where to submit your next paper or feel stuck choosing between journals, I've linked a free research planning workbook below that you can use to get you started thinking about your research. Publishing isn't just about writing well, it's about making the right decisions at the right time. If this was helpful, subscribe and I will see you in my next one.